Alright, on to level 4 of the Venusian Vengeance commentary track. I want to take a moment to talk about the green background. If you notice, this green background is actually the same background that appears in the starting screen, and there's a reason for that. When I was first prototyping the interior levels, I would block out the levels just with ground tiles, and so everything else was just, there was no texture over it, so whatever the background color happened to be at the time became the color that was around the ground tiles, and that happened to be left over from the starting screen when the background was set to this shade of green. And I happened to like how that looked, so when I worked on the tile set, I then made, instead of putting in a background color or a color for this area here, I set it to transparent and left this green in because I liked how it looked. Now, this level, you'll see, is on a series of catwalks. So again, this is, I wanted to play with navigation and the sort of environment you have. And in this level, you have a lot of areas where there's very little space to move, but a lot of space to shoot. So there's these thin catwalks and then areas that you can shoot over, so you're often shooting across at enemies you can't physically reach, or you're choosing different paths to walk on that lead you to different enemies. And so that was the general theme for this level. So this first area introduces the catwalks by having it so you are shooting across most of the time. In the first area, all the enemies are on the other side. In the second area, there's enemies on both sides, so you have to shoot across but also shoot on your own side. Here you have a choice of where you are, so you could go attack that enemy up close, you could be in the middle here, so on and so forth. Here's another place where I try to employ the rule of thirds. You can see a lot of enemies are on this middle catwalk, which is about a third of the way up the screen. So you get a more interesting layout than if that was directly in the middle. And here we have, I reintroduce the blocks that provide cover, that you can hide behind and also destroy with the rocket launcher or just with a lot of regular bullets, which is useful here because you're being attacked from both sides, and it would be very difficult without being able to hide behind these blocks, which, if you notice, I set them up so that they can give you good defense from one side or the other, but not really both at the same time. And then here you're being attacked not by as many enemies, but from both sides, and you don't have the cover, so it's a bit more difficult. And I'm leading the action over towards this side so that I can then have this encounter with this guy on the platform there. So this brings us to the next boss battle of the game, where I introduce the third and final extra weapon, which is the machine gun, which was one of my favorite weapons to use, just because, you don't really have to think about it very much. You can just sort of fire big bursts. It's really good for the cave level later on when you're fighting bats. So again, I wanted to have an area right after the boss battle where you can take advantage of your new weapon. So now there's a bunch of tacklers you can just shoot through. You could also get one of the previous weapons if you wanted. So there's item boxes, but I'm going to stick with the machine gun for now. And again, this area would probably be very difficult if you didn't have a special weapon. I mean, it's difficult even with the special weapon, but it's a lot easier and feels a lot. You feel a lot more powerful being able to play around with the new weapon, shooting through all these hordes of enemies. But now I'm back to the regular gun. So here, I reintroduce the elevator, and now if you'll notice, the level is laid out very similar to the previous time you ran into an elevator. There's the 3 pathways for that in the previous elevator enemies came down. There's the 2 weapon boxes. Instead of pillars, there's these little holes. So it's setting up in the player's mind an expectation of what's going to happen when they hit the elevator, which of course then does not happen. They wait for the elevator and no enemies come. So now they're thinking, oh, that's interesting. Okay, maybe I'm going to be fine. Maybe it's no enemies are going to come. It's going to be safe. And then the elevator arrives and ambush. I mean, the enemy is pretty easy to hit, but it gives the player a little moment of shock and sort of surprises them, hopefully, which is what I hope to accomplish with that. Anyway, thanks for watching.